Hey, I'm Nate Flax.
I'm Noah Longworth McGuire.
And this is Talking Lion.
Talking Lion is a podcast focused on artist-to-artist conversation.
We're primarily artists, a duo called Sleeping Lion, but we've been lucky enough to write, produce, and hang out with so many incredible rising artists since we started our project.
Whether it's at sessions or parties over cups of coffee, we've talked with our creative friends about everything. Music, life, love, and all the subtle complexities that come with being in the middle of a journey.
Talking Lion is about hitting record on these conversations and sharing them with you. There's no real structure, nothing really prepared, just friends talking about life and what it's been like and where it's going.
We recorded this episode with our friend Bay Ledges.
I first met Bay Ledges at one of his shows shortly after moving to Los Angeles, but I'd known his music for a while. His song Off You had a profound impact on me when I first heard it back in Boston.
Some context for this interview. Bay Ledges released his EP In Waves in 2018 and is currently on a West Coast tour.
We also briefly talk about the Sidewalk Cafe, which was a venue in New York City that famously hosted weekly open mics for 30 years before closing in 2019.
Kind, soft-spoken, and incredibly talented, Bay Ledges has a truly unique sound, with songs teeming with honesty and introspection.
So,
without further ado,
I'm Bay Ledges, and this is Talking Lion. How are you guys?
Good. Thanks for coming by.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. It's
Thanks
good
for the
to
food.
Oh, of course.
Always.
Yeah. We always like eating on the podcast. Luckily, it was funny. The first one we ever did, we were eating while we were recording. We learned very quickly that people don't like the sounds of chewing.
Oh, man. I know. I did listen to a podcast like last week, and somebody was chewing gum. I was like, oh man, that's a rough.
Well, it's like a very like I know there are people who like are hypersensitive to that too. No, but thanks for coming by. We were all hanging last night at Lizzie Land's show.
Yeah, she sounded great.
It's like nice that there's this like community sort of around Will Kiker. But they're all like, great people and with great music,
Yeah.
We're biased a little bit, but
No, totally. I know. I feel lucky to have made my way into that circle a little bit.
Well, it's always fun to just like, especially shows like that when it's sort of a reunion of friends.
Yeah.
Because between sets you can always catch up and have a drink, and it's less like schmoozy and more.
Yeah. It was so packed in there.
Yeah,
it was great.
I'd never been to the Lyric either.
I hadn't either.
Yeah, that was a really cool show.
Yeah,
and she's just that was a special show.
Her voice is so on point.
Yeah, unreal.
Always.
I brought a friend and she just kept looking at me like, and I'm like, yeah, I know. We know. This is not news to anybody, but how have you been? What's been new?
Good. Yeah, we had like a couple shows last week. We were opening for this band, James Super Cave.
Oh, cool.
And it was fun. We like went down to San Diego and then did a show here at the Bootleg.
Nice.
And it was really fun. It was nice because we hadn't done any shows it'd probably been like 2 months or so. So it was just kind of fun to play again.
Get back
work
into
that
the
muscle.
swing of it.
Yeah.
And you said you're going on tour in a bit, right?
Yeah. So we'll go mid-August, and so now, and really for like the last couple months, I've just been writing and just trying to get new stuff together before that happens.
Yeah.
So
definitely feel that. It's funny. We were in a session, and I went on Instagram and saw your show, like the Bootleg Show on Will's story.
Yeah,
and I hate that feeling of like I want to be there so
badly.
Yeah. The last time I saw you live was when we like first actually met.
Oh yeah.
Which was like Mama Lion.
Dude, that
Ones
was
to Watch.
Yeah, that was pretty stripped down. Yeah.
Well, it was a cool show nonetheless. It's cool to hear those songs live. What's your favorite song to play live?
Favorite one to play live is probably any of the ones I don't have to play guitar. Like I love like Hearts or Electric Dream is fun. I love like dancing up there.
Oh, nice.
So I just not having to like worry about playing anything is so fun. I love that.
That's awesome. And what would you say is like you've gotten the best like crowd reaction from?
It's probably like when I'm dancing, one of those songs, like Wherever You Sleep or like Electric Dream. I feel like I sort of had this moment this past fall. we toured for a couple months, and we were opening for a couple bands, and I don't know, I just started to like just try things out, just try to be more free up there, and just playing around with dancing. And I felt like once I started doing that, it's sort of, because I'm not like a good dancer, so it like I felt like it freed other people up to be like, oh cool, like we don't have to be uptight in here.
Yeah, I mean, as a performer, you definitely are like the benchmark in the room. Like you're, you have to give people permission to like,
the excitement you put out is what you get back in.
Yeah. So I like started latching onto this idea of really, when we're performing up there, like creating sort of a safe space for people to just like be and not worry about being judged. And because I mean, I do that all the time.
Right.
I'm standing in a room.
Well, and LA is notorious for that. I remember, because we played so many shows in Boston, and there were students and people were excited and singing along and all that stuff. And we played our first show in Los Angeles, and nobody moved.
Yeah,
and we like just like politely bobbing their heads,
we had never
played arms crossed.
We had never been to a show in Los Angeles. Like this was like our first show was our first show in. Like, that we had seen in Los Angeles.
Oh damn!
Like, and so we asked our manager after, who had been in Los Angeles already. We're like, did we bomb?
Did we
like,
suck? Did they hate us?
And he's like,
no, that was a great show.
He's like, everybody loved it and was vibing and feeling it. I'm like, they were?
Yeah. You fooled me.
With like a 2 millimeter head bob.
Yeah, if you get somebody,
means a lot.
If you get 2 millimeters out of a head bob, you're doing something right in Los Angeles. Yeah, that's the crazy thing.
Totally.
I feel like people are breaking out of their shell a little bit now. But
and it's it's so easy to. I lived in Brooklyn for a while, and I mean, it was. I enjoyed living there, but there definitely was a feeling at times of, wow, it is so cool.
Yeah.
Here. Like,
well, and I saw you like a month into being in Los Angeles. So we're at this, sort of bar space, and like there's like a nice crowd, and I'm singing like off you and my hands up, and and everybody around me is just like looking at me. I'm like, that's what you're supposed to do. That's
right?
That's the intended response to this thing.
Yeah.
We were talking last night about, for you're saying how playing is like a form of surrender, like a way of like sort of getting outside of yourself. Elaborate on that.
Yeah. I guess like it just goes back to I think since I started this project, like it's from the beginning, it's kind of always been this, I had gotten to a place with music that I felt like I just was so boxed in, and I was kind of doing the like solo singer-songwriter thing, and and like it just felt very serious, and like and I can be serious, but I felt like I was kind of missing this more like playful, fun side of myself in music. And so yeah, I think like the performance over time has really become this thing where I'm just going to try to see how far I can go. And sort of like, if a moment feels awkward, I'm going to like lean into it more than I think typically in life I lean away, in any awkward moments, really.
Well, so, I think like in general, like you're very cool, like very, like you and Noah are very similar in this sort of like calm, like, sort of, but I think what's interesting is, and even the one time I saw you live, like there's so much energy. Even your singing voice doesn't sound like your speaking voice.
Oh,
Like there's, it's like a different sort of extension. We were talking last night about Superman. He's like one of the only sort of superheroes whose
I loved that.
secret identity is being normal, as opposed to the secret identity being the super part.
Yeah, and I didn't get that. Once you compared it to Batman, I was like, oh man, because what were you saying?
I was saying like Batman, like he is Bruce Wayne and he puts on the mask to hide that. Like his superhero persona is the secret identity, whereas Clark Kent is the Speedo.
Right.
Like spandex cape. Like that's who he is, and the Clark Kent part of it is Kal-El, or however you pronounce
Kal-El,
it.
yeah.
That's who he is. Like he is Superman, and he hides it by being normal.
Yeah, right. No, I feel that totally. I feel on stage, it's more and more. I'm like, oh, this feels like me.
Because even though it's performative, like sometimes who you are is like somebody who loves performing.
Yeah.
So having to be a person that isn't performing constantly is like trying to taper parts of yourself that like that.
Yeah. And I mean, it's sort of like everyday life is a performance in some ways, it's like,
definitely.
how do you sort of, And we were talking last night about like control. And I just see, I mean, as like years go by, I see more and more the ways with myself. And I think the fact that you see like a very composed, like chill guy, I think that has been something that just through growing up, you know, I've sort of like built this person and
kind of earned coolness, like
earned coolness, but also just like it's sort of like a way to like cope with. I'm not saying that I'm cool, but I just mean that I think my sense of control is trying to control my surroundings by keeping everything sort of in this neutral, like mid-range zone, you know, like on stage, I feel like I sort of forget about all that. And I'm just kind of like, cool, I'm not going to worry about, you know, because I'm the oldest kid too, of three. And so I think with that came a lot of like trying to take care of my sisters and controlling situations and making sure kind of everybody's okay.
Which one's the middle child?
Georgia. Yeah.
Do you remember whether it was like when your mom was pregnant or when she was born?
Yeah.
Were you ever upset about that? Because I remember when my mom was pregnant, like being upset about the new attention on this, you know, stomach. And then when my brother was born, really genuinely not wanting. I was like almost in denial about it when my brother was born.
You're like, he's not one of us.
Yeah, well, it was just like
coming home.
And I sort of realized this week that like every time I've been just a terrible person, like every time I've been, I think like the worst versions of myself, it's been some sort of rejection of change outside of my control.
Yeah, like I don't remember any being angry, but I actually remember I was like so excited. Like I remember holding her for the first time, and you know, she had like so much hair for a baby. I was like, this kid is crazy. And you know, but I think over time, I think as my parents were both teachers and very involved in the school that they worked at.
What did they teach?
So my dad taught government, and my mom taught English, but she was also like head of admissions. And
cool.
Yeah,
my mom taught theater.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
So she's a teacher.
Oh, nice. Yeah, both of my parents like sang in the school shows and performed. So I like grew up watching that, and so like my parents were these people that I really admired. And I think because of the school, I think they were pretty preoccupied with the school a lot. So I think I just learned how to focus more on being quiet and kind of like not wanting to be a problem, and like focusing on my sisters and not really thinking too much about my own feelings, I guess.
Interesting. Yeah.
So I think like over time, I mean, growing up, I think it's, you know, the last like 10 or so years, I feel like it's been wild to sort of be like, oh, I need to be more in touch with my own feelings and not so, I feel like I'm more connected to how everybody else is feeling and less to what my feelings are.
I feel that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's definitely the way I am.
So you grew up in Maine?
Yeah. From Maine.
What area of Maine?
Bath, Maine, which is this small town like north of Portland. It's like mid-coast Maine.
Did you go down to the ocean a lot?
Yeah. We like grew up. Yeah.
Lobster for breakfast, lunch.
Yeah. No, it's so funny. Like I don't like lobster.
Oh, no.
But my family loves it. Yeah. So we definitely had that at the house. But yeah, like you know, in the summers, any free day that like my dad had, we would always go to the beach. And, you know, sometimes it was like too much. I like wanted to play with my friends, and it was like, no, we're going to the beach, you know, like, so yeah, definitely spent a lot of time by the ocean. And yeah.
I love that. And so you have two siblings. Were you all musically inclined? Like, were you all sort of started that at a young age?
It's weird. Like I started playing guitar when I was like 12, and then I started like writing my own songs soon after that. But I mean, I was so shy, and I think it just ties into being that like quiet kid. yeah, I was like terrified of sharing that with anyone or anyone like hearing me work on that stuff. So I was pretty quiet about it. My sister Georgia was at like age 2. She was like singing and like, you know, she used to, at the school that my parents taught at, they used to have auditions. And I remember my sister.
The choir?
No, it was like the school show.
Oh, nice.
And I just remember my sister being like 5 and like doing 1, 2. And like, it was so, yeah. So she was like very into it from the beginning. And then my littlest sister, I feel like she's very musically capable, but I think she was kind of like, screw all of you.
You're like, yeah, let you guys
she's like,
do that.
F you
Yeah.
guys. Yeah. It was like sort of her rebellion to the whole thing. And
What does she do now?
she's a writer.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like,
she does like, she writes for some blogs and then she does copywriting.
that's awesome.
What else? And she also does some like brand building stuff. And
Cool.
That's
so,
killer. Yeah.
yeah.
So it's creative nonetheless, just in
Yeah.
a different sort of, almost like, you know, practical sort of space.
Yeah.
Now, what sort of music was around you guys you know, in that time? Were you listening to show tunes or was it?
Oh yeah, I know. Not really. Like we listened a lot to like the Beach Boys. My dad was like huge into the Beach Boys.
Nice.
And the Beatles. Who else? James Taylor.
My mom loved James Taylor.
Yeah, Ray Charles, Johnny Cash, Aretha Franklin.
So the greats. You had the greats like around.
Yeah.
Yeah. My dad loved Yes and like Emerson, Lake and Palmer. So I didn't know what a chorus was until I was 15. You know, like
Yeah, that's right. I didn't really. Yeah, Yes, I didn't listen to a lot, but it was like kind of prog.
very
rock,
prog.
right?
Yeah. Like 8-minute. Like, you know. I think And You and I has like a chorus that comes up twice over the course of 8 minutes. Like
That's so funny.
But
Yeah, I always felt like I named those artists, and I just to me it felt like, oh, this is what everybody listens to. But it's,
that's the thing. I mean,
nice
if you're
to
lucky, that is.
Yeah.
You know? But I feel, you know, we definitely had like an eclectic sort of, which inevitably leads us down the path of like pop punk and.
Yeah, yeah.
But were you in bands in high school?
No, I would like jam with some kids, but no, I wasn't in a band. I was just, I guess, more like the sad kid who was just sort of writing songs by himself.
Was music more a hobby where you're like, oh, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life?
It was weird. Like, yeah, I remember my sophomore year with a good friend of mine who I started learning guitar with in middle school. I would go to his house and his brother was in this band and the guitarist from the band would teach my friend Chris all these like Nirvana songs and like, you know, Green Day and all this stuff. And so Chris would like show me that stuff and we'd kind of teach each other stuff we were learning. And I just remember one day being like, man, I'm going to like do this, you know? And I remember my friend Chris was like, I'm going to go to business school. And we were like 12. I was like, dude, really? We're not like, it was sort of this weird, like, divide in the road. But yeah, I remember really wanting to do it, but also being so terrified of it. Like, it was such a strange, you know, because it wasn't like I was like playing all the time. I remember playing a coffee house at my sophomore year of high school and just, you know, I was excited to do it, but I was also equally just like so terrified.
Well, because it's so abstract. Like until somebody sort of opens the curtain and is like, "Oh yeah, so if you know this person or like this, you know, if this here's this route and this route and this route and
it's
like
just the abstract, like the music,
industry.
Right.
Yeah."
It's
like
so
I want to
true.
go into you know, when I was in like 15 or 16, I'm like, I want to be a music producer, but I did not know what that meant.
Yeah.
I was just like, I think this is what I want to do. But now looking back, I'm just like, I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
I
And, like,
didn't
what
want to
that
do.
road
I didn't
is.
want to do music necessarily because I wasn't comfortable with not being able to see the through line.
Yeah.
And so when somebody unveiled the curtain and was like, "There's the through line," I told my parents, I'm like, "Yeah, I want to do music professionally," and they're like, "Was that not the plan?" I'm like, no, it was a hobby until today. Like, it was, I was going to do other things. I was going to, like maybe do film or whatever. But no, today. And they're like, I guess so. This is news, maybe.
Yeah.
Like it was very much like duh.
Yeah,
right.
like obviously. That's hilarious. Yeah, I think it is funny when you, and I'm sure this is the case for most people, but it's like when you grow up and you don't have someone in your family that's in the music business or really know that many people that are in it. And so you're kind of like, okay, I have no idea even what that looks,
or even with the modern, I mean, my dad tried to make it in the music industry, but back then you needed like $15,000 in outboard gear and like, yeah, but then somebody opens your eyes and it's like, oh yeah, this is how you do the thing. But yeah, I was just curious if like at any point you were like, oh yeah, I want to be an astronaut or or an author or like
I think I always kind of wanted to perform in some capacity. Definitely like watching those shows as a kid. I just was like, man, they were some of like the most magical times. And so watching that when you're young, and also in some ways, I think to see your own parents sort of like transform. Both my parents had really good voices, and like my mom would sing in the show, and it was like such a big deal. Like everybody would freak out, and to see that as a kid was just, it was like, wow, this is amazing. I just sort of want to live in this.
Because you know your parents are already your hero when you're a kid, and then like you get to see. My mom would do shows too, like with the temple and stuff. And my father would play in bands, like various bars and stuff around. But seeing them like sort of embody this I don't know. I guess passion is the word, right?
Yeah,
like, that's cool. That's objectively cool to see as a kid.
Yeah. I feel like it's so important as a kid to see that, to like see your parents. Maybe some flash of them at least
as people.
As people, exactly.
With the things that like sort of drive, in an almost superhuman way, the things that sort of keep you going, and the things.
Yeah.
That, at the end of the day, for all the qualms, I always, my parents were like, if there's anything we did, we did things we loved, so you guys could see what that looks like. That was.
They said that.
They said that, yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, because when I was rebellious, I was just like, Dad, you settled, Mom, you settled. Like, you guys wanted to do this, and they're like, no, we wanted to do things we loved, and we're doing it. So, what do you got?
Like, damn, man, wow, that's heavy. That's in a great way.
I mean, you haven't been shut down until you've been shut down by a Jewish mom. That is the primo guilt, like because it's guilt and like insight and like
the double sword, double-edged sword,
all at once. So, and you said you went to college in Wheaton?
Yeah, I went to Wheaton College, which is, just south of Boston.
What did you study there?
I studied African American history and theater, because I think in college at some point I was like, I want to act or do comedy or something.
What was your biggest takeaway from both subjects?
African American history. I think that really, I just was like, wow, there's a whole history here, and literature, and just a whole wealth of culture that I have not fully been exposed to, and that has not really been put in the light. And also, I had this amazing teacher who, this woman, Delita Cathcart, who is just amazing. So she sort of like made the subject too just so interesting. And but yeah, so I kind of took from that. It just was sort of like, oh, this is cool. It really has always been written by white men, and I just
so seeing the other side of history.
Yeah, totally.
Similarly at Berkeley, there's that class that essentially is like, by the way, we stole all this music.
Yeah, after many years of fighting, they finally made it a required course that everyone going to Berkeley learns about, like the roots of most of the music that they play.
No kidding.
Like just the music of the African diaspora, and just sort of like that whole history of how like blues and jazz and rock and like the foundation of most of the pop we listen to comes from like Afro-Cuban music.
Yeah.
And like when you're studying it at Berkeley, like, you just most people just don't necessarily know that.
Yeah.
But I think it is important for all of us like working in the music industry to at least have a grasp on like where some of this stuff comes from.
Totally.
And the other class was theater?
Yeah, it was theater. Yeah, I loved it. It was just
you wanted to do comedy, you were saying?
Yeah, I like grew up, taping like with VHS cassettes, taping SNL and like,
nice.
Yeah, I would stay up and I, like one of my best friends and we would like trade tapes and stuff. But so I was like, man, I want to do that. But yeah, I got into acting and just thought that after college I would go and try to pursue that. And it was great. I think a lot like performing live now, it sort of got me more free. You know, it kind of helped me explore parts of myself that I wasn't necessarily in touch with on the daily.
I think one of my favorite parts about seeing a live show is somewhat of like the interaction.
Yeah.
You know, between songs. I know a lot of people are like, oh, just get on with it. But like I've never seen a show where there's been a compelling conversationalist on stage where anybody's had a problem with it. I remember even B. Miller played the Roxy. It was so interesting that when she would sing, she held the mic up here. But when she talked, and she was hilarious, she held the mic from the bottom, like a stand-up comic.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was conscious necessarily for her, but like this is somebody who's watched stand-up stand-up comedy.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
You know?
I love that. Oh, that's cool.
Who were the comedians that were an influence to you at that time?
I mean, I think growing up, I loved obviously Seinfeld and Todd Barry. Oh man, who are some others?
Not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, there's this guy Gary Gulman who's really hilarious. He's a New York guy, and then obviously like the Mike Myers, like Dana Carvey, Adam Sandler, and Chris Farley. I was watching some Chris Farley stuff the other night because I had just like forgotten. That was such. I mean, he was just so huge for a moment, and I don't know, some of his clips, I came across him on YouTube and I was like, wow, man, this guy, he was just like, he didn't really even have to do anything. And he was hilarious. He just was so good.
And then he was just like slowly just like amp it on.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And he had this voice that just was so huge sometimes.
I love going back and watching like old SNL it's just
so good.
I mean, obviously everybody in those old episodes are now, legends in the field, but just, and even just like we've somewhat recently become like obsessed with John Mulaney and Bill Hader.
Yeah.
I mean, because they're just
my God, they're so good. Yeah.
Do you watch Barry?
Yeah.
That's just...
The show is great.
So good.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And also, Mulaney did that Broadway thing with, with Nick
Kroll.
Nick Kroll, so good. I mean, it's
so
like
good.
crazy.
Having any like relationship with the theater, you're just like, this is hilarious.
I know.
They're on Broadway.
Yeah.
Even documentary now, some of the, like John Mulaney did the Company one, the co-op episode.
Oh, my God.
And the monologue with like Bill Hader. It's like, I'm free associating.
Oh my God, it's so good.
I still stand by that, and I know it's not binary that like happy music is vapid and sad music is the most connective. Whatever.
Sure.
But I do think that there is so much to mine from sad songs, and it's almost easier to write sad songs that like are compelling than a happy song that's not cheesy.
Yeah.
But then like, laughter is just so, I mean, we see improv comedy once a week, like.
It's a unifier. Yeah. I feel like it brings people together. It's just, for me, growing up, it was just in my family, humor was sort of this like key to everything, It was like my dad, I think he was like a disciplinarian growing up. So he could just be this intimidating guy. And I feel like humor was sort of this lane that it was like, it just sort of dissolved any conflict or, anything like that. So yeah, I feel like humor is just, it's such a tool.
Well, and using it like a key, like learning like an early age, any relationship, whether it's professional or like romantic, like the thing, like are you funny? Like, is it, can you, you go to a party and you're like, oh yeah, like by the way, my folks got divorced. Like nobody wants to hear that at a party,
By the way. Yeah, right.
But totally. You're just like, you're chatting around and like you make a joke about like, whatever you're drinking or like, the song that plays.
Or even making a joke about your parents' divorce. That like when it's framed in humor, like people will laugh and
right. And maybe even they can relate to it and like sort of
and be like self-deprecating and like
oh totally.
It just like it eases so much tension, but you got to learn that as a kid. Like I'm so grateful to my parents for the fact that was really important to them. And I think, important, your mom is hilarious. Like,
humor is definitely a big thing in my family too. It's a lot. I mean, it's like humor is like the emotional deflecting. It's like the way of emoting, like you emote through sarcasm and through saying the opposite of what you mean.
And that's why I've found like a good chunk of people in music are also just really funny.
Yeah.
It's just the other side of that coin.
Yeah.
It's like you're laughing in a session and then you write the saddest song.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
Well, speaking of humor and acting and everything, when did you move to Los Angeles?
I moved here in the fall of 2014.
Okay.
So
was that when you launched your project too?
Yeah, well, I moved here and I had like finished. I moved here from New York and I had done this Kickstarter and made this album and thought I was going to move to Nashville. And my sisters, both of them were out here and they were like, why don't you just come here and just see if you like it? And I didn't really know what I was doing. I was sort of like, I don't even know where my life is going. You know, I have this album and I did this Kickstarter for it. And I don't know if you've experienced this, but like as a musician, it's like we work so hard and make these things and then you sort of like put them out in the world and then it's sort of like, okay, what do I do now?
Yeah.
You know? And
well, and also you could work so hard for something that never, you know, and we've probably said it a bunch of times on this show, but like every action has an unequal chaotic reaction. Mm-hmm. So you could spend 2 years on a record that 10 people listen to.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you could, you know, bump into somebody at a coffee shop and then all of a sudden you've got like a platinum record.
Yeah.
You know, like there's all kinds of madness involved.
Exactly.
But there's definitely like, you know, especially when you set a goal and then you hit the goal, you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. Like what next?
Yeah.
Like what
next?
do I do? Yeah. So
what record was that? Was that Under the Bay Ledges?
No, it was under my name,
okay.
Zach Hurd.
Yeah.
And so I had finished that.
What was that called? What was that?
It was called A Million Little Lights.
Oh, nice.
I moved out here and was just kind of trying to figure out my next step. I was living on my sister's couch and I got a job at this restaurant on the west side and super expensive, but amazing food. Yeah. And I just was trying to figure it out. And when I left New York, a friend of mine had given me Ableton.
Oh, nice.
And the thought was like we would send songs back and forth.
Postal service style.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, totally. And I got out here and I was like, I have no idea how to use this thing. And he like tried sending me something once and it just didn't work. And but then one day I like popped it open and just was like, I'm just gonna mess around. And then that kind of just unfolded. And it just sort of was this thing that I was like, it was kind of this fun little escape from thinking about where I was going in my life and what I was gonna do and what my next step was. And what
was the first Bay Ledges song that you worked on?
It was Tween Love.
Nice.
Yeah.
When we first heard that in the stuttered guitar, like that was mind-blowing. Like, that
cool.
was hearing sort of, because we were trying to figure out at that time, like, how do we take all this organic stuff that we, you know, feel comfortable with, because we both did folk stuff for a while. How do we do that and turn it into, and all of a sudden we're hearing stuttered guitars and really cool like vocal effects that weren't necessarily vocal chops.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's totally where my head was like, I love indie music and like electronic and music that makes you feel good and want to move, but like I only have an acoustic guitar. And so I think I just was sort of like, okay, how can I make this work into something like that? And and so it was just really fun. And I remember finishing Tween Love and like I posted it on SoundCloud and like I was really into the SoundCloud world at that time. And then Brandon from Vinyl Moon. Yeah,
he was writing for The Burning Ear at the time.
He was,
right?
yeah. And it was funny because I had sent him a song of my like Zach Hurd album. And he was kind of like, yeah, this is cool, man. Like, this isn't my normal style that I go to, but, you know, I'll post this song for you. Cool. And he was like, you know, let me know if you ever sort of expand into, you know, anything a little bigger. And I remember I sent him Tween Love and he was like, wow, man, this is exactly the kind of thing I love. Like, I'm going to post this. And
it was unique. I mean, that was cool. The biggest thing was just like, it was in the vein of what we were listening to, but unlike, like sonically, unlike anything. And your vocal layering was really cool too. There was just a lot of things that was like firing up. What inspired the song?
I'm not really sure. Like I had gone on a date with this girl I was sort of psyched about, and we never actually went out again. but yeah, I think I was just kind of feeling that, and then I was also just yeah, I just was really, once I sort of did the initial like guitar chopping. I was like, oh my God, like it was sort of like this, like my head exploded a little bit. It was just like, oh wow, and you can like pitch your vocals and you could do all these things that just seemed so fun. That was like kind of exactly what I was looking for. Yeah, I mean that song is only, it's like 2 verses, 2 choruses, and I think because I just was like, I'm gonna spend as little time writing and more time sort of putting the pieces together production wise.
Did you play percussion at any point too? Because I just remember like the drum patterns themselves were very like unconventional and very like,
yeah,
you know.
No, I didn't. But like, yeah, I mean, everything in that song and that recording was just so, I'm sure I did things that now I look back and I'm like, wow, man, like it was just sort of like taking the, 50-mile route for, the 1 mile shortcut. Like I just was doing all these things that now they would make it a very frustrating process for me, but at the time I was like, whoa, this is amazing.
I think there's something kind of like raw and pure about that, because I've been stemming out some of our back catalogs, we're transferring it, and I'm like doing some remastering stuff with it, and I was looking at these old sessions which I haven't touched in years, and I'm like, yeah, what the hell was I thinking?
Yeah.
Like, why did I do that like that? Like I definitely wouldn't do that now. But there's also this feeling of like, that was really weird. Like that's cool. Like I would never do something like that now, because I'm like, I've maybe I've become stuck on my ways to a degree, and I'm like, oh, like that was like such an outside the box thing to like, oh, I just like recorded my wind chimes and like did all this crazy stuff to these wind chimes. And, like, that's like, I need to do more stuff like that. I need to like not lose that feeling of just like, and one of our first like the first like sleeping line things that came together was like Generous, and it came together for me largely because like I had discovered Logic's flex pitch feature, and I was like, oh, I can pitch, like I can just record the same note and then make it a bunch of different notes. Yeah. And I made like a vocal stack that way. And that was one of those moments where I was just like, oh shit, like this is such a cool thing. So I think there's just something really exciting about like discovering technology, and like that there is a very cool creative thing that happens when you're like first stumbling through learning something. Yeah,
just the whole act of like learning.
Yeah.
And sort of, I think for me, it had just been so long since I had come into contact with something that I was like, I want to just learn this, and I'm not really good at it to start with, but like having these little moments that sort of blow your mind like that, where you're just like, oh my God, like this is so cool. It just kind of kept me going, and just like, it was just so fun, because it was like, there was really no, I knew it was leading me somewhere, but I had no idea if like I was just going to make a few Bay Ledges songs and then I was going to go work as a teacher, or like, I don't know, or maybe I was just going to realize something about myself personally through doing them, which I have, but this idea that maybe it wasn't going to be leading me to like a professional career or something. But
well, there's a purity in that too. I think that like one of the things that I miss the most is like not necessarily knowing what the future is, but having like a list of like what I would like it to look like. I think that was when we first started out, that was so interesting. Like, okay, why are we making this? Like, not even necessarily thinking about the audience or the playlist, but just being like, oh, let's make this because it could be good if we make it good, and then like, sell it to everybody. Then we'll, hit up everybody we know. And there was something really like special about those plans, whereas like now it's like, oh, okay, I kind of know what this trajectory is like. I kind of know who's listening. And so whatever sort of external like question mark was there when we started is not necessarily there anymore.
Yeah.
But I mean, that EP was sort of our sonic introduction to you. I remember, I've mentioned this to you countless times, but that I first heard Off You, I think, on a Discover Weekly playlist right around the time my girlfriend and I broke up. And it was just everything that like I needed to hear at that moment.
That's so cool, man.
Because it was essentially like I was trying to find things to get my mind, and it's not just like I'm getting my mind off you. It's like I'm gonna be fine so soon.
So so funny, man, because literally when I wrote that line, I was like, this is so simple. It's so dumb.
It was everything. And
I almost like abandoned the song altogether because I was just like, I feel so corny. Well, but then it was so honest too. I was just like, that is the way I feel. Yeah.
But also just like the first verse.
At the end of the day, I was sitting on the roof. I was looking at the view and thinking about you. Hollywood sign, lemon trees and the faded sunlight.
My view now, my view of Los Angeles was very inspired by that first verse.
Man. That's really
not
cool.
To geek out like
I love
on the
that. No, that's the coolest thing ever.
What was the inspiration for that song? Because I'm so curious.
Yeah, I mean, I had gone through a breakup of my own, and working on Bay Ledges was like a nice way to sort of move through the heartbreak. And then I was also living in this house with 3 other people in Venice, and I had this room that was in a loft, and so you would, in the kitchen, like climb up this ladder, and I just had this like little like bed on the floor and like a little desk and chair, and it was, you could only stand up fully in certain
and you're a tall guy.
Yeah. And it had like a hatch and stuff, so I just would be up there working all the time, and yeah, it was so cool. I mean, we were so close to the ocean. I just remember being like, I can't believe this is my life. Like, this is unbelievable. On one hand, I think my mom was like, wow, you're living up here, but all that whole first EP, it was pretty much all written up there. And yeah, I would basically just finish my shifts at the restaurant, and then just whenever I wasn't there, just working on those songs.
And that was the view. That was the
yeah. So there was like a lemon tree right there, and like, and you could go on the roof, like just crawl out the window.
You could see the Hollywood sign.
You couldn't fully see the Hollywood sign, but you could see where those what is it, Griffith Park? Yeah.
Hey, it's the myth behind
exactly.
Some embellishments.
Yeah.
But no, I in a weird sort of like spiritual way, I owe a lot to that song because that was the thing. There was always something missing of like, anybody, when you go through a breakup, they'll say like, you'll be good, and you don't necessarily believe that. You're like, I'm gonna feel this way forever, and there was something about that song which was like an inevitability that everybody gets good, and that's the third verse that like is really cool, It's like it'll be good,
totally right, it's gonna be fine. And I think even when I was writing it, I was like, I don't know that I fully believe that either, but yeah,
the sound at the end. What is that?
Oh, so that was the other thing, man. I used to do so much just like recording with my iPhone. They were just building a house next door, and I just recorded the guys building. Yeah,
that's great.
When we were working on Stop It, all I wanted to do was sleep in every day and like just like wallow, and there was construction underneath us, like in our apartment. So we woke up to this hammer.
Oh,
wow. Like this like bassy hammer, like where like if you had like a bowl in the room, like you would hear like the silverware move in the bowl.
Yeah.
And that became like the kick of Stop It.
Oh my God, that's great.
Which is, just so I relate. I was like,
so good.
I was like, that sound has to be like this thing that's happening. Did it wake you up? Did the construction wake you up?
Yeah, it would sommes. Yeah, totally. Yeah,
there's nothing worse than just wanting to be asleep and being woken up by construction.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, I would walk the boardwalk and just have my iPhone on and just sort of like pick up recordings and stuff.
That's always good stuff.
Yeah, totally.
I love that. And then of course the birds.
Yeah.
Was that a sample or did you actually record them?
Yeah, I actually recorded. Like at that time, I had no idea how to get samples really that weren't my own. So
that's also a kind of freedom, I think, at this point.
Yeah. But I mean, I had certainly like some drum samples and stuff like that. But in terms of like any like real life sounds or anything,
I think what I like about Off You, like sonically and just like the way it feels like that turning point. It feels like the first moment when you sort of start to believe that things are going to be okay.
Yeah,
like there's something kind of just like something's lifting about it.
Oh, cool.
I feel like it embodies. Yeah, but it's not just the like, oh, everything's fine. It's this feeling of like everything has very much not been fine, but this is the first moment when I can see like the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think that's a really like complex and cool feeling to encapsulate.
Cool.
Like, think that's part of the reason we both like that song so much.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah.
Well, there's that nice little acid chip in the second verse. The weird.
Oh yeah.
To be with everyone. They said let this sit on the tip of your tongue.
Oh yeah.
But like, I mean, it could be anything. It could be just like a general sort of awakening and sort of reversal of thought and like compartmentalization, all that, you know.
Totally.
Yeah, it, in a weird way, it like resonated with Noah and I at the same time for like different reasons, and it was like,
I love that.
You know, and then sonically introduced us to you. You know, that was like today somebody's gonna be hearing your song for the first time.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
It's a weird feeling to sort of grab. Like, do you think about that?
No, I don't. That is really wild. Yeah, to think about. But yeah, it has been so cool to have people, you know, reach out who are like, oh, I heard this one song, and then I sort of, you know, went into the rest of your stuff. And yeah, it's really, I mean, and honestly, touring has like made so much of a difference for me, just in the way of like, you know, it's so easy to get your music out there these days, but it's like this whole other side of it to meet the people that are listening, you know, and some of these people who are the level of honesty is just so humbling, you know, that it helped them through a certain time, or, you know, yeah, it honestly, like a few times like brought me to tears, just some people, because, you know, I know for myself, I don't know that I would go up to someone and just be like, hey man, this like really meant this. Maybe I would. I think I would now, because I realize what courage that takes to really share with someone you don't know a really difficult chapter of your life.
And you don't necessarily know, like, by the time you're finished working on a song, you somewhat become desensitized to it. But that first thing is that, I would argue, the same amount of honesty. So all they're doing is returning the favor.
Yeah.
I've always felt that.
Man, that's true. Yeah.
You know, like I heard your story before you heard mine, and so in a weird way, like I felt that sort of gratitude of not feeling alone in it.
That's a really good point, because it does feel, when you put those songs, you know, when you put a song out, it's like, or while you're writing it, it's like, is this too honest?
Yeah.
Or is
and
this
when you've
like,
heard it 200 times, you're just like, I don't know what these words mean anymore.
Yeah,
you're just like, these are words, I guess. But like, when someone hearing for the first time is going to connect with it in like a very specific way.
I'm sure there have been times when you play it and you sing a lyric and you're like, oh.
That's actually true. Yeah, totally.
You're like, you know, I haven't thought of it, and then it's like, oh, that's,
that means something different to me now. Or I get where I was at that time. Yeah, that's true. They like evolve over time.
So the EP comes out, and then Safe came out after?
Yeah, I put the EP out and had like this house party. I had like a few of my friends play as my band, and so we did that, and then it was just sort of like, all right, cool, that was fun, and I just kind of kept working. And Safe was a song that I had started like a year prior, and there were like 5 different versions of it. And I think one thing I started to realize with that song, which is still really easy for me to forget, is, I mean, it's just so easy to put too much shit in your songs, you know, and like, and to get tied to those little things. And especially, you know, with Bay Ledges, I really prided myself on like the guy hammering at the end, or like these little like soundbite things that to me felt autobiographical or just personal. But with Safe, I think with the song, I think I just hit a point where I was like, you know, I'm just gonna strip a lot of this stuff away, and I just let it breathe more. But yeah, so I sort of worked on that song, and then the plan was just, I'm gonna just release some singles, and I also decided I was gonna leave the restaurant. I was gonna go to Virginia, and we were gonna sell my grandparents' old house. So I was gonna go and clear it out, and then when I came back to LA, I was gonna probably like teach or something, work some job that I was excited about, and not just like kind of this musician thing where I was.
You're waiting for the Spotify check or the.
Exactly. Yeah. I want to like really do a job that I'm gonna really throw myself into. So I had planned on coming back, and I just wasn't really sure what the next step was. But during that time, so I leave the restaurant, and then I put out Safe, and then I just drive cross country and I think it was while I was driving cross country, a few friends of mine from here were like, "Yo, man, like, how'd you get your song on Fresh Finds?" And I was like, I don't even know what Fresh Finds is. And so I saw that and I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this is so cool. I have no idea. And then a couple of days later, it got put on New Music Friday and then went viral and just got, all this attention from some labels. And so it was kind of it was so surreal. I couldn't believe it. And I was also in Virginia. I was in Williamsburg, Virginia, which like at my grandparents' house, nobody really there. So it was just kind of wild, but I did that and then met with a couple labels and signed with this label in New York, and which I don't know, I think I was a little nervous about doing, just sort of what was going to be expected of me and how
we've all heard the stories of all labels.
Yeah.
Ever, and
yeah. But I think I was talking to my girlfriend during that time, and she was like, I was like kind of just wanting someone to tell me if I should do it or not. And she was like, I think we're in a time in our lives where, and she's in residency as an OB-GYN up in Fresno.
Oh, wow.
And so she's like in the thick of it, and she's like a total hero. But she was like, I think we're in a place in our lives where we just don't have the time to doubt. Like, there's no time to doubt right now. And I just was like, okay. I was like, all right. And I don't know, that just has always stuck with me. And I just was like, screw it, I'm gonna do it. I'm just gonna sign. And worst case, I'll just learn a lot. I'll just learn a ton, and hopefully I can learn some things that I can pass on to some other people. And that being said, it was still terrifying, because I was still trying to define the project for myself. And so all of a sudden you have all these people who, are
invested, and
they're invested. And they're like, we think it should be this or that. And it just, I think that first year I just was like, oh my God, I remember I got like really sick. I'm sure it just all kind of manifested from just all this kind of stress and anxiety. I think I was, putting a lot of it on myself, but
her advice is incredible, and I think still, I mean,
and my sister too, I remember talking to my sister, and she was like, well, Zach, like, what it is to come back to LA and do it the way you've always done it, which is, what it is to come back here and work a job and just keep, working away at the music. So like, basically, why not?
Well, and that's the thing. What I love is that you're not only like comfortable with what anybody else would consider like the worst case scenario. You're almost like kind of looking forward, like teaching.
Yeah.
So I remember like I taught piano in New York, and I loved it. And if everything really did hit the fan tomorrow, I would enjoy that. I think I would enjoy that. Yeah. I think it is interesting the kind of surrender you have though when you're comfortable with the worst case scenario.
That's true.
Because you could do anything.
Yeah. It's so true. Yeah. And getting to that place can be so tough sometimes. But I remember I was working with this manager when I first signed, and he was this really cool, calm guy. And I was at a show with him once, and I was like, how are you like you are just like so calm all the time about like, this stuff like scares the shit out of me. Just sort of, I don't want to be made into this thing that I'm not, and all this stuff. And he was like, man, he was like, it's like, it's just music, it's like, it's only music, and, it's going to be okay. And I try to remember that sometimes, because I was like, wow, you are like such a Buddha, man. Like, that's amazing. Like, because on one hand it is just music, and on the other hand it's such a deep part of ourselves. It's all of us, it's like,
well, we were having a conversation the other day, just sort of recognizing, and and I realized that to a degree I put a lot of my life into this, but on the other hand, there's so many things that are really fascinating to me, that I'm in music because it happens to be all the things that fascinate me. But all of those things are translatable to other places. So,
Yeah.
you know, when I get really freaked out about something at the end of the day, it's like, it's just songs. Like they're just, you know, and that's so much and so little.
Totally.
It's 3 minutes of sound.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that like, there's all these things about it that we put it on this pedestal, but at the end of the
Yeah.
day, which is always interesting. But so after the label, did you put out Found in Tropical on the label?
Yeah, so that was like the first one that I did under the label, and I with that one I was still like I was like, man, I'm just gonna make this the same way that I made the last EP. I'm not gonna change anything. So I had like this, you know, USB Apogee mic, and I just like, I only used that, and then like my computer keyboard, you know, and then like mixed the whole thing on my headphones. And yeah, I was just so tied and scared of it like not being the same or not feeling personal. And
Well, and that's always the thing is like, you know, you either slow build for years,
yeah,
which, hey guys,
Yeah.
or you have like, and we saw it with friends of ours at school, you have like the first thing, just like nail it. And then there's
Yeah.
so much pressure and fear around
totally.
that, you know? Like,
Yeah.
did you get in your head about it? Was it like very...
Sure. Yeah. I mean, definitely. I was, I just remember that whole period of like working on that EP. I was just so, it's like, I just wanted to do it my way. But I was also not wanting to mess up my opportunity. So it was really tough. I just in the way that trying to do both, I think was hard.
I really liked In Your Head off of,
Oh,
was
cool.
that on Found in Tropical?
Yeah.
I remember the call and response of that was really cool.
Yeah.
Said I don't wanna love anymore. Said it's in your head. She said I don't wanna love anymore. Girl, it's in your head.
You know, because on the one hand, it felt like a conversation. On the other hand, it sounded like the internal, when you have that other person in your head and you're having that conversation.
Yeah, well,
as
that was a cool one because I had written that around the time that I did the first EP, so I had that song kind of laying around, and then
Was that Georgia singing?
yeah, and then I had and then so it's like a year later, I had Georgia. She came over, and I was just trying to figure out some other element, and so. I feel like her vocals on that song added such an awesome dynamic.
Do you guys still do like?
I think she just texted me because I have a session with her like this afternoon. So we've been working on some stuff for her, and
You're saying she's got a record coming in a bit.
yeah, so she's got an EP coming out. I think it's July 11th, and
Nice.
she's already got like a couple songs out, and yeah, it's great.
Under Georgia Hurd.
Yeah, under her name, Georgia Hurd. And and so recently we've been working on some stuff for her, and then also some stuff for me. I feel like we have very similar, I don't know, things we like and don't like. So it's pretty easy to kind of work together and help each other out. It's always fun to sing with her because
you blend in a really cool way.
It's pretty seamless. So, but at the same time too, it's nice to like have your own space with each other, and because she's like started doing her own music, I feel like it's really freed us up to get together and
try things.
Just try stuff out, and it's been really nice to, it's nice when you kind of both have things you're doing, and then you can come together and mess around, try stuff out. Yeah.
Is there, because this will probably come out after her record, is there a song on her record that you're really excited about?
I mean, one song, it's already out. It's called Limits. But I think that song is a banger. It's so good. Like, she worked with this friend of mine, Kyle McCammon, who I don't know if you know him, but he's a guy I know from New York. I mean, he's just a great human being, but he's also just a really talented producer. And that was the first song that they did together. And it was just sort of like, wow, that's like immediately good. Like, she sent it to me and I was like, damn, this is amazing. But so she put that out a few weeks ago. And then the EP comes out in a couple weeks, I think. Yeah.
We'll keep an ear out for it.
Cool.
And you just put out another record, yeah?
Nothing
not
yet.
just,
well,
but
yeah,
like, yeah.
Put out that In Waves EP. Yeah.
What's your favorite song off that?
Favorite one, maybe Electric Dream. Yeah, maybe Electric Dream on that one.
Why?
It was just kind of fun, and it was like fun to make. It was originally a song that a friend of mine sent me, and I thought I was just gonna remix it for him. Like, he had vocals on it and everything, and then I started working, and I was like, oh man, do you mind if I and I did some choppy guitar stuff, and he was like, yeah man, just like literally like do whatever you want with it. And I was like, okay, cool. And
that's awesome.
yeah, so it was and I thought it was so, I couldn't believe he was so cool about it. I was like, wow, yeah, I guess there are songs that I've worked on that I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead.
You know, if somebody like gets really hype about it and we're like, oh yeah, I don't know.
yeah.
Like, do whatever.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, like 15 other writers were on it. And,
Yeah.
you know? But
Yeah.
You said your favorite lyric was from Safe, right?
Yeah. It's hard for me to say. Maybe I would think of one later that was better, but yeah, I thought that, you know, we got magic in our heads.
Yeah, we got magic in our heads.
I think Safe just was sort of like a magical song to write. It just, I was just in such a free place. I just was trying, to connect with being free, and it was just a fun one to make. And so that lyric, I think, was just speaking to.
Well, I love that. Like, it sounded like that song in a weird way was the turning point. Was like the shift.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Bay Ledges in general is just, I'm so grateful that it was sort of this real safe space for me.
I don't want to speak too soon, but I think I love you.
Ready for lightning round questions?
I'm ready.
All right, what is your phone background?
It's a picture of the ocean, sunset at, off the Venice Pier, actually.
Nice.
Yeah.
Back by where you used to live?
No, I didn't live right there, but I guess it's not far from there. Yeah.
Nice. What was the first concert you went to?
Outside of seeing my parents in those like school shows, the first concert might have been, I was really late, but I think in high school. Oh yeah. In high school, I went to go see this band, the Rustic Overtones in Maine. They were like signed for a minute. They were like a big deal. Yeah, I went to see them at Colby College. It was also the first time I got drunk.
Nice. That's fun.
Yeah. It's like sophomore year of high school.
Do you have a non-musical hobby?
Yeah, what do I like to do other than music? It's so hard to
hard
think.
question.
It's pretty
People
much
always
what I'm
ask me,
doing.
I'm like, I don't know at this point.
Maybe I love like finding new art by artists that I whose work I'm into.
Like visual art?
Yeah, visual art. Yeah, whether it's photography or painting or design. Yeah, I'm into that. I surf like when I can.
Oh, cool.
It's a little harder going from this side of town, but but yeah, I love surfing, and I grew up doing that, and so yeah, I love being by the ocean when I can.
That's good.
Yeah.
Do you have a skill that you would like to have?
Yeah, I would love to be good at woodworking.
Oh wow.
That's
I just feel like I
Build a
have,
chair.
Yeah, I have some friends. I built some stands for my monitors, and they look so cool, but they are so shabby. Like I'm just waiting for the like most subtle earthquake to just blow them over. But
So you have an excuse to make them again.
yeah.
That's fun. Which fictional universe would you want to live in?
I mean, it'd be cool to live among the Ewoks, maybe.
That
Just
sounds
like
fun. And
all those
peaceful.
tree houses. Yeah.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
In peacetime. I don't think there was
Yeah.
ever a peacetime in the Star Wars universe. For as long as you can remember, it's just been
I mean, yeah, it is the Star Wars universe.
Yeah.
We don't see a lot of peace on screen.
Peace Wars.
I can't believe
Star Peace, yeah.
Star Peace.
I also can't believe I just said what I said. Like, that's nothing I've ever really thought about like, since like maybe I was younger. But yeah,
It seems like it'd be a fine time. This next question is, what is your superpower?
my superpower is connecting to people. I think I'm a good listener.
Yeah, it's an
I would
important
agree
one.
with that.
Cool.
That was very eloquent. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right. Most important question. Would you be a pirate?
Would I? I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like living, it just seems like kind of a nasty lifestyle. Yeah, it's just like those guys aren't showering very often. I mean, I guess there's the ocean right there. I mean, it'd be cool to be on the sea for a little while.
Noah and I are fiercely divided on the subject.
Are you? Yeah. How do you feel about it?
I think I would not want to be a pirate, one, because I don't particularly like sailing. I don't want to be a criminal, and it's not, the hygiene would get to me. Like, there's all kinds of reasons why I think being a pirate would not be the life for me.
I would very much like to be a pirate.
Really? Like, they've never looked like a thing that
I don't mind the not showering part. I will immediately steal oranges so that we don't get scurvy. I'll be nice to my crew so there's no mutiny. I love being on the ocean. I don't like the ocean, but I like sailing. I like that side of it.
Sure.
Cannons are cool. And also the people that we're stealing from, like, historically weren't great. Like the East Indian Trading Company, like, they were selling bad stuff.
Yeah.
You know, look that up. I would steal from them, and I'd have a strict no pillaging rule.
Okay.
And other stuff, like, you know, no rape and murder.
Being a pirate with a no pillaging rule feels like you're not being a pirate. Like,
right.
It feels like you're not doing it right.
I'd be Nate the Nice. That's the...
Yeah, but then you would get murdered for being too nice. Like, you're among thieves. Like, you're in the pirate community.
No,
you get murdered.
Like, I would...
Yo, we're gonna murder Nate the Nice.
No, I would want like to get all the crew members. Like, I would seek out... I've given this more thought than I
know,
need
this
to.
is amazing.
I think I would seek out... crews that wound up like jumping ship from like dictatorial captains, like captains that were really nasty, and they're like, we want somebody who's a little nicer. And
you're like, I'm Daenerys.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. I'm like, well, except for that last.
Give me your Unsullied, and then Nate the Nice goes off the deep end.
Yeah, I would just be like, you know, hey guys, you tired of murdering innocent people? Come to my place. We have oranges. Sick of scurvy?
The orange pirates.
The orange pirates. Do you have any tattoos?
No, I don't.
What would your first tattoo be?
I thought about like getting, so I think it was 5 years ago now. My dad was he was killed in a car accident. Oh, so I thought about maybe getting his his signature somewhere or something, but I don't know. I've never felt compelled enough to do it, I guess. I love I mean, I see tattoos all the time that I'm like, oh my God, that looks so awesome. But yeah, just never.
If you don't mind me asking that to stand out, because I didn't know. How old were you when that happened?
So I was 33. I mean, it was wild. I mean, it was so. It must have been right shocking.
Around the time you were out here too, right?
Yeah. So no. So it was right before I came out here, okay. And it was just kind of this wild. It was just very surreal. It was like my mom called me and I just like gotten home from work and she was just like, hey, you know, Dad was in a car accident and I could tell by her voice. I was like, oh shit, what has happened? And so it was just this really like sort of shocking, just awful thing. But it was also, it was terrible. But then it was also equally like incredible and beautiful because all these old students of his, we had this memorial service at the school that my parents taught at, and you know, I think it was like one of the biggest like assemblies of events that they had, and it was just incredible. It was just incredible to like meet all these people who sort of like he made this impact on their life, and so it's wild how those moments are just, they're both sides of the coin. And you know,
I lost some family about four years ago, and it was interesting how close we became as a result of it. Like how we slowly, everybody's become closer and more open about how they're feeling and where they are. And
totally.
you know, it's interesting how that, like, you know, moments where there's a before and after, like, it winds up shaping, but oftentimes can have like those positive effects. And,
oh, for sure. Yeah, I definitely feel like it brought our family, like my extended family, to kind of closer together. Like you just kind of have to lean on people. You're and so did he like your music? Oh my God, like almost like I used to get embarrassed by he would play it in his classes and shit. I was like, Dad, you can't be playing what is the point of you playing you know, my music in government, you know, like, but no, he was a huge proponent. So there's kind of a piece of this whole thing that I was like, man, it would have been really cool for him to see kind of how things have unfolded. But also, you know, I feel him and sort of hear, he would, when we were growing up, he used to sing parts of these songs that we didn't know. And we used to be, my sisters and I would get so annoyed, you know, just like, Dad, shut up. Like, it was so, these like old, whatever, Everly Brothers songs and stuff. And then it's amazing because like since he's been gone, I'll like be somewhere like in Walgreens or something and this song is on. I'm like, holy shit, that is the song that Dad was singing all the time. Wow. Like, so it's funny to, you know, feel like there are pieces of him around. Yeah.
Is there one of your songs or some of your songs about it, or like about?
Yeah, I think In Your Head there were pieces of that, and I'm trying to think. Well,
I'm sure. I mean, sure, it permeates throughout. I was really sure if there was like one
there
like
was
ode
specifically
or one. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think, I mean, In Your Head kind of has like the, you know, the third verse sort of speaks to, you know, just, I think there's a part about like, just like wanting to die and then like sort of hearing, my dad's voice and, being like, you know, you have to keep going. And, and so like that's probably the most like on the nose thing that I've ever like written about it. But yeah, it definitely permeates a lot. I think just coming out here in general, going through a breakup, but also having that and sort of feeling this heartache. I think a lot of those like heartache songs were.
Well, it's like when it rains, it pours. I think it's also easier to write about relationships than it is about loss. Like I had a breakup around the same time as the family stuff, and I don't think I've written a song about the family stuff, but I definitely written about the breakups that happened, because that was how I could experience, like channel, like, you know. But I didn't know that. Thank you for.
Oh yeah.
I almost feel off going into funny.
It's so funny, man.
The next question is, what is your favorite color to wear? And I'm just like, how do I segue into this? Like, how do I? Like, what's the transition here? Like,
no, it's so good.
No, we were talking about before. Humor is the way out of everything.
Man, it's so good.
It's just like, tell us about the loss of your father. What's your favorite color to wear?
Dude, it's so funny because when you asked the tattoo question, I was like, should I answer with the real answer? And then I was like, yeah, I'm just gonna go for it. But yeah, no, it's all I'm happy to talk about it. But no, I'm happy to answer it.
So what is your favorite color to wear?
Probably blue, I guess. Yeah.
A classic. Can't go wrong.
And we're back.
Yeah.
What's your favorite holiday?
Maybe Thanksgiving. Like it's terrible. Yeah. Like it's the historical piece of it. I just really like. I love the fall in New England and
an excuse to see family.
Exactly.
And it's all about the food. Like Thanksgiving's great because it's all about the food.
My grandmother's such a good cook, and it's
like so good.
This is a good one. Do you have a favorite sound?
Favorite sound.
Hammers waking you up.
Yeah, hammer. Yeah, totally. What is a favorite sound? Probably like maybe like a reverse snare, like a reverse snare going into a snare, like that sort of like shh, and like.
That's a very specific feeling, but it's a very satisfying feeling.
What about in nature?
In nature,
like that could be
probably birds. Yeah, man, we have so many around. I don't know if you guys have
I thought you were gonna say the ocean. Honestly, I was like,
oh wow, yeah, that's a good one too.
I like rain. I miss the sound.
Man.
I used to go to sleep like to the sound of rain.
Me too. Yeah. So,
or I couldn't sleep, and if it was raining and I couldn't sleep, I would wander around the neighborhood.
You'd wander down to.
We were in like a safe suburb,
Yeah.
so I would just like wander to the park like in the rain. I would be drenched by the time I came
I was
home.
just imagining you wandering down to Sidewalk Cafe.
Oh yeah, no, I was. Could you imagine? Just like I went all the way down into New York City. Like I lived outside.
I'm still amazed that you would just go down there as a teen. That's amazing.
Well, I finally asked my mom when I was 17, like, "Hey, can I play the Sidewalk Cafe?" Even though I had been already for like 2 years, and she's like, "Yeah, okay, yeah. Do you know how to get there?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, you just take the 6 down to Union Square Park, and then you walk down." No, I actually don't know how to get there. I'll look it up. Yeah, I've never been before. I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Do you remember the wildest thing you saw at the sidewalk?
Man, the wildest thing. I feel like I went through this chunk of time. It was probably like 3 months when I first moved to New York, where I would just go just about every night of the week. And like I would go to Sidewalk, but I would just go to a different open mic. And I'm trying to like, I'm having a hard time remembering like specific. I mean, I remember seeing Nellie McKay.
Oh yeah, you were talking about her.
There's this guy Darwin Dees. I don't know if you ever heard of him, but
name sounds super familiar.
Yeah,
actually.
he was and he's still playing, and he's super good. But and then
do you see Debbie Dalton?
Oh, that name's
She's an older woman who would play banjo.
Oh, I think I
and
might
used to play with like Pete Seeger. Like
yeah,
I think,
yes, yeah.
Yeah, she was great.
Yeah, it was sort of like just the whole like experience of being in that place was just in itself it was just so
surreal.
Surreal and just sort of like sensory overload. It was incredible. And it was just kind of this like, you're like, where do these people live normally? Like, where are they hanging out during the day? Like, this is incredible. It's so cool.
You know, you're wearing a Speedo and slapping a rubber chicken. What do you do the rest of your day?
Yeah.
What is your favorite movie, favorite book, and favorite TV show?
All right, favorite movie is probably, I love Good Will Hunting.
That's my favorite movie.
Yeah, it's so good. And then favorite book, I loved The Phantom Toll Booth.
Oh,
Did you ever read that?
Yeah, as a kid,
yeah. I loved that book. And then favorite show, what's that? David Chang, his new show. It's like Ugly Delicious.
Ugly Delicious.
Yeah. I think that show's great. Yeah,
I haven't watched it, but
it's great. Yeah.
What's the best date you've been on?
Best date. I mean, I met my girlfriend while I was working at this restaurant at Justa, and we went on a date. And
were you the one that slid the number on the receipt, or did she write it?
She wrote her number, and then I called her that day, and we went out that night, and we just like walked around all the West Side. Went to this place, Cha Cha Chicken, that's over there. Like, we didn't really do anything that was amazing. I was like, wow, I felt like it's those moments when you just feel like an instant connection to someone. Mm-hmm. It was great. And then we had ice cream, and then we listened to music in her car. and we didn't even, there was no makeout or anything like that. It was like very like PG date, but it was so fun. It was just so fun to like listen to music. And
when they say when you know,
yeah, it was great. But yeah, I loved it. It was like just such, because I've done many dates in the past where it was like, you meet someone at a bar, and you have some drinks, and then you're sort of loosened up, and and those are fun too, but this was, I don't know, just it was a fun date. Sure.
That's really sweet. What's your favorite Halloween costume you've done?
That I've done. I don't know, my mom made me a Spider-Man costume when
Oh,
I
that's
was
great.
young. Yeah, I mean, it was so hideous. It was like she took like a red like ski hat and like sewed black lines into it. It was just like, yeah.
It sounds like she tried her best.
Yeah,
though.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
love.
God bless her. It was made her. It was so much love, but she was always the type. It was like we can make your. We're not going to go out and buy.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, my mom also, but one year I was a super supply boy,
Super supply.
where I had a white shirt and my mom glued like Staples supplies to
Wow.
my shirt.
That's inventive.
That's
And if
great.
you want to know how old I was when I got my first friend, it was later than you would imagine.
Super supply boy. That's so good.
That's a comic book that I'd read though.
Yeah, it's like you need a pencil.
Need a pencil,
exactly.
solving crimes with stationery.
So, yeah.
Looks like you're having trouble seeing all the angles. Need a protractor.
It's so good.
Can you whistle?
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice. You proved it.
Can you whistle one of your songs? That was great. That was solid. That was great. Yeah.
Do you have a scar with a story?
Yeah, I have the scar here. I know it's probably kind of faint now, but I got in a bike crash with my best friend when we were like 5, and I had like 8 stitches put in, and then they sewed an infection into my head, and so into the wound, and so
Oh my God.
so I woke up the next day and I looked like Rocky, you know. And then my mom was kind of like, "All right, yeah, I think you're okay. Like, go to school, you know." And so I go to school and wake up the next day and it's even bigger.
It was
And-
hurting too.
Oh yeah, it was kind of sore, and it was I couldn't even see out of this eye.
Oh my God.
And they were like, "Yeah, I think we need to go to the hospital." So I went to the hospital. I had to be in the hospital for like a week. Yeah, but it was cool.
Did your friend have a matching scar?
No, he had no scars. he
went unscathed
He was
in
like
this bike
totally
accident,
fine.
yeah.
Yeah, he was more terrified, I think, when he looked at me when we both like sort of got up, and I had like, you know, just blood all over my head. But
Do you have any recurring dreams?
no, I don't think I've had any that are recurring. But sometimes I meet famous people. Like I had a dream I met Stevie Wonder. It was an incredible dream. I don't even listen to Stevie Wonder that often, but I was so just like, you know, bowled over in my dream. It was wild. But hopefully I'll meet him again in my dream.
Yeah.
What are 3 thoughts you have at this very moment?
3 thoughts I have is I'm making my sister wait, and then it's not warm in here anymore. It feels really good in here.
The air
The
conditioning
AC
just kicked
Okay.
in. Yeah.
And the other thing is that this was really fun. This was like really cool.
This has been awesome.
Yeah.
This has been this is
And I think I don't normally talk to people a lot about sort of what I do or have done and what I'm. So it's really fun when you just kind of sit down and.
Yeah, I think that's why we like doing this podcast. Is it's nice to have people talk about like consistently like their story, because you know people don't always put all the pieces together.
Yeah.
You know, like in their everyday life, because they're like doing the thing. But it's nice to like go back and look at like, oh, this thing led to this thing, and it can be really interesting to have this conversation. And what's advice you would give to your teenage self?
Don't just be yourself, and like don't be so don't be hard on yourself too much. Yeah, just like the weird things that you feel are weird about yourself, just like trust in those things, and it's all gonna be okay.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for new artists and writers and producers?
Yeah, I think just like if you're loving doing it, just keep doing it. And if you're struggling with sort of where things are going and how you're gonna get there and all that, just know that for at least in my experience, I think that's kind of what everybody experiences. And I think just like keeping on, you'll eventually, it'll lead you to where you should be, and where it'll feel good to be, I think.
What are you most proud of?
I think what I've done with music is probably what I'm most proud of. And maybe the first Bay Ledges EP, I just think it was, like we were talking about earlier, just sort of learning. And I think I don't know that I'd fully seen myself as a great student, you know, but I think it just helped me see myself in a different light, that, you know, I could really throw myself into something and learn something new and really own it for myself. And so, yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely something to be proud of. And what are you most excited for?
I'm excited for the tour we have coming up in August, and I'm excited to get new music out.
Are you playing New York on the tour?
No, we're just doing West Coast.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Keeping it sunny.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, staying on this side. But yeah, I'm excited for those things. And I love that it's summer. I love the summertime. Yeah.
Summer in LA is interesting. It's just a little hotter,
I know, right?
you know?
Yeah, it's like, yeah.
But the summertime is like a,
yeah.
you know.
I just love the long days. Like the short days bum me out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At least you don't have to experience East Coast cold.
Yeah,
anymore.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing worse than like short days where you also can't like walk around or like all
Yeah.
that stuff. But we'll keep an ear out, and we're excited
Cool.
for Georgia's stuff too, and
Cool.
everything. And thank you for
Thank you,
coming
guys.
on.
Yeah.
This is
being
awesome.
here.
It's
Thanks for
good
having
to
me.
see you too.
Yeah, likewise, guys.
We would like to thank Jägermeister and Isotope for their early support of Talking Lion.